Breaking. Prince William just called out Keir Starmer in the most brutal public confrontation between the royals and number 10 inches modern history. And what he said behind closed doors has ignited a full-blown civil war inside the palace that could end the monarchy as we know it. The fallout is so catastrophic, so unprecedented, that senior royals are preparing for the unthinkable. If you want to see how this constitutional crisis ends, hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens in the next 72 hours will determine Britain's future forever. Here's what sparked the explosion. 3 days ago, Keir Starmer delivered a budget speech that stabbed British tradition straight through the heart. His words were brutal. Cuts to royal ceremonial funding, elimination of historic palace maintenance grants, and a radical review of the monarchy's constitutional role. But Prince William wasn't staying silent. The future king did something no heir to the throne has done in 70 years. He struck back publicly, forcefully, and without palace approval, and that single act just fractured the royal family down the middle. It happened at 11:47 a.m. yesterday during a veterans' charity event in Portsmouth. William was supposed to deliver standard remarks about service and sacrifice, safe topics, protocol-approved language. But halfway through his speech, he went completely off script. Palace aides describe watching in horror as William's prepared notes were pushed aside. What came next shocked the 400 people in that room and has since detonated across every news outlet in Britain. There are those in Westminster, William declared, his voice shaking with barely controlled anger, who seem to believe that tradition is a burden we can simply discard, that centuries of constitutional balance mean nothing, that the institutions which unified this nation through war, through economic collapse, through every crisis imaginable, can be dismantled for short-term political gain. The room fell silent. Everyone knew exactly who he meant. And then William delivered the line that has paralyzed Downing Street. I say this to anyone attempting to weaponize our constitution for partisan advantage. History will judge you harshly, and the British people will not forget. The response was swift and devastating. Within 2 hours, Downing Street issued a statement so cold, so threatening, it read like a declaration of war. The Prime Minister respects the constitutional monarchy. However, all institutions, including the Crown, must adapt to the democratic will of the British people. Unelected figures should remember their constitutional boundaries. That phrase, unelected figures, was deliberate. It was a dagger aimed directly at William's legitimacy. Sources inside number 10 describe Starmer personally editing that statement 5 times, making it sharper, crueler, more cutting with each revision. One aide who witnessed the process told The Telegraph he wanted maximum impact. He wanted William to know this is personal now. But here's where it gets even more shocking. What the media hasn't reported yet is what happened in the hours immediately following William's speech. Multiple sources confirm that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, personally telephoned senior Labour MPs urging them to distance themselves from Starmer's confrontational approach. One MP, speaking on condition of anonymity, described Catherine as passionate, articulate, and absolutely furious about the attacks on her husband. She made it clear, the source revealed, that William didn't go rogue. He spoke with full awareness of the consequences and zero regrets. This is unprecedented territory. Catherine has always maintained absolute political neutrality, never involving herself in Westminster disputes. Until now. Her intervention signals something far more dangerous than a single speech gone wrong. It suggests the entire Wales household has declared war on Downing Street. Meanwhile, British veterans who actually served this country, who bled for the Crown, are being systematically abandoned. James Patterson, a 72-year-old Falklands veteran from Newcastle, waited 14 months for a hip replacement through the NHS. 14 months of agony while he watched millions in foreign aid flow overseas. I gave 3 years of my life to the military. Patterson told GB News in a viral interview that's hit 4.3 million views. I came home with shrapnel still in my leg. And now my government tells me there's no money for my surgery while they build luxury hotels for illegal migrants in Kent. His voice broke. His wife, standing beside him, wept. While veterans like Patterson suffer, Starmer's cabinet enjoys 6-figure salaries, taxpayer-funded second homes, and expense accounts that would make a millionaire blush. We're talking about ministers billing taxpayers £127 for a single dinner, £400 for a train journey they could have driven for £30 in petrol. The contrast is so brutal, so morally bankrupt, that even traditional Labour voters are turning away in disgust. The The stories multiply daily with sickening regularity. Margaret Collins, 68, from Cardiff, worked as an NHS nurse for 43 years. She retired with a pension that barely covers her heating bills. Last winter, she chose between eating properly and staying warm. She chose warmth and lost 2 stone. "I served this country my entire adult life," she told reporters outside her council flat. "And now I watch politicians on television talking about compassion while I'm rationing meals like it's the 1,940 Her case isn't isolated. Age UK reports that 2.1 million pensioners are living in fuel poverty right now. As Starmer's cabinet debates cutting winter fuel allowances for the elderly while simultaneously increasing foreign aid budgets. The optics are political poison. And William knows it. That's exactly why he's speaking out. Because someone has to. But then something unprecedented happened that nobody saw coming. King Charles, who has remained publicly neutral throughout this entire crisis, broke 70 years of royal protocol with a single, devastating phone call. At precisely 6:15 p.m. yesterday evening, Charles summoned Prince William to Buckingham Palace for an emergency private meeting. What was said officially, palace protocol forbids disclosure, but 3 separate sources inside the royal household have leaked fragments of a conversation that could rewrite British constitutional history. "You've put us all at risk," Charles allegedly told his son, his voice reportedly cold with fury. "Every word you speak pulls us deeper into political warfare we cannot win. The monarchy survives by staying silent, by staying neutral, by never choosing sides." William's response, according to one senior courtier, was equally devastating. "And what happens when silence becomes complicity? What happens when the people look to us for moral leadership and we say nothing?" The room reportedly fell silent. Father and son stared at each other across a 300-year constitutional divide. No resolution, no compromise, just rupture. The meeting lasted 73 minutes, according to security logs obtained by the Daily Mail. When William emerged from the king's private study, palace staff describe him as ashen-faced, but resolute. He left Buckingham Palace without speaking to anyone, drove directly back to Windsor, and hasn't been seen publicly since. But WhatsApp messages leaked from palace staff reveal something extraordinary happening behind closed doors. William has been on the phone constantly, speaking with constitutional historians, legal experts, and former prime ministers. One leaked message from a senior aide reads, "HRH is researching precedent. He's looking at every instance where royals defended national interest against government policy. He's preparing for round 2. Think about what that means. William isn't backing down. He's doubling down. And he's building a constitutional case for why the heir to the throne has not just the right, but the duty to speak when government policy threatens British values. The optics are catastrophic for the royal family. For decades, the Windsor family presented unity, discipline, unbreakable solidarity. But now that facade is crumbling in real time. Palace insiders reveal that Queen Camilla is furious with William, viewing his Portsmouth speech as reckless grandstanding that endangers the entire institution. Princess Anne, according to sources, has sided with her brother, believing the monarchy must defend traditional values, even if it means political risk. Prince Edward and Sophie have gone silent, refusing meetings, declining public appearances. The divisions aren't just philosophical anymore. They're personal, bitter, and potentially irreversible. WhatsApp groups among junior royals have names like damage limitation and constitutional crisis response. One group, obtained by the Daily Mail, contains messages showing panic, confusion, and outright fear about what comes next. If William keeps pushing, one message reads, "We're going to lose everything our grandparents built." Within hours, the hammer fell across British politics like an executioner's blade. Labour's poll numbers, already struggling, collapsed by 7 points overnight in a YouGov emergency survey. 7 points. In 3 days. Conservative support surged to 34%, Labour dropped to 29%, and Reform UK climbed to 22%, their highest polling in history. In Labour, strongholds like Liverpool, Manchester, and Newcastle support cratered by double digits. Nearly half of Labour's own voters told pollsters they were reconsidering their support entirely. Financial markets responded with brutal efficiency. The pound dropped 1.4% against the dollar within 24 hours. International investors panicked about constitutional instability. £1.8 billion was wiped from London Stock Exchange valuations as traders fled British assets. The Telegraph ran a front-page headline that captured the crisis perfectly. Britain's constitutional meltdown sends markets into freefall. But wait, because the economic fallout is accelerating faster than anyone predicted. The Bank of England held an emergency session yesterday at 4 p.m., attempting to stabilise currency markets before Asian trading opened. Governor Andrew Bailey, normally unflappable, appeared visibly shaken during his brief press conference. Constitutional uncertainty creates market volatility, he said, choosing every word carefully. We urge all parties to resolve these disputes quickly and privately. Translation: this crisis is costing Britain billions, and someone needs to blink before permanent economic damage sets in. Credit rating agencies are watching closely. Moody's has already issued a statement warning that prolonged constitutional instability could trigger a review of Britain's sovereign credit rating. If Britain loses its AAA rating, borrowing costs skyrocket, government debt becomes more expensive, and public services face even deeper cuts. The irony is brutal. Starmer's budget cuts sparked this crisis. Now the crisis might force cuts 10 times worse than anything he originally proposed. International leaders watched in stunned silence. In Canada, opposition MPs questioned whether Commonwealth ties to Britain were sustainable if the monarchy faced systematic political attack. In Australia, where Republican sentiment has grown for decades, politicians pointed to the UK crisis as proof that constitutional monarchy is unsustainable in the 21st century. Even American news networks, typically uninterested in British politics, led their broadcasts with footage of William's speech and Starmer's response. Britain, once the global standard of political stability, had become a cautionary tale of institutional collapse. Inside Number 10, the atmosphere has descended into complete chaos. Ministers are openly fighting in corridors. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner allegedly confronted Starmer in a cabinet meeting, demanding he back down before the party destroys itself. Witnesses describe her voice rising to a shout, "You're committing political suicide and dragging us all down with you." Starmer reportedly stared at her without emotion and walked out without responding. Chancellor Rachel Reeves was overheard telling a junior minister, "If he doesn't fix this in 48 hours, we're finished." Transport Secretary Louise High has stopped attending cabinet meetings entirely, refusing to associate with what she privately calls constitutional vandalism. The question isn't if Labour rebels move against Starmer anymore. It's when. Senior backbenchers are circulating a private letter demanding a vote of no confidence. At least 17 MPs have reportedly signed it already. The number required to trigger a leadership election? 20% of Labour MPs, currently 87 signatures. They're 70% of the way there. But here's the layer that could finish Starmer's career forever. Leaked documents obtained by The Times show that Number 10 commissioned a secret legal opinion 3 months ago titled Constitutional Options for Limiting Royal Political Influence. If these documents are real, and if they show what senior sources claim, then Starmer didn't accidentally stumble into confrontation with William. He planned it deliberately as part of a long-term strategy to weaken the monarchy's public standing. Think about what that means. The Prime Minister of Britain, elected to serve the Crown, secretly plotting to diminish royal authority while publicly maintaining constitutional respect. The optics of that would be absolutely devastating. If Labour MPs discover their leader deliberately provoked this crisis, the rebellion won't just be about polls or politics. It'll be about betrayal of fundamental British values. One shadow cabinet member, speaking anonymously to The Guardian, put it simply, "If he did this deliberately, he's finished." You don't attack the Crown and survive in British politics. History proves that every single time. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage is positioning Reform UK as the defenders of British tradition with surgical precision. While Starmer fights William and Labour MPs plot rebellion, Farage stood before Union Jacks in Clacton yesterday and delivered a speech of devastating simplicity. When our future king speaks up for British values and the Prime Minister attacks him for it, something has gone terribly wrong in our country. No shouting. No theatrics. Just quiet, focused patriotism. The message resonates because it's true. Reform UK membership has surged 287% in 4 days. Small donors are flooding party coffers with contributions. Former Conservative and Labour voters are switching allegiances in unprecedented numbers. The polls tell the story. Conservatives at 34%, Labour at 29%, Reform UK at 22%. For the first time in British electoral history, a three-way race is not just possible but likely. Farage isn't a protest candidate anymore. He's a legitimate contender for power, and he knows it. And here's where Farage's strategy becomes truly brilliant. While other politicians debate constitutional theory, Farage is connecting William's defence of tradition directly to everyday British concerns. At a rally in Birmingham yesterday, he drew the line explicitly. Prince William defended veterans. Keir Starmer cuts their benefits. Prince William defended British values. Starmer dilutes them with mass immigration. Prince William stood for what millions of you believe. Starmer calls you unelected and irrelevant. The audience erupted. This wasn't just about the monarchy anymore. Farage had weaponized William's courage into a comprehensive critique of Labour governance, and it's working devastatingly well. The next 72 hours are critical because three separate constitutional dominoes are about to fall. First, Labour's no-confidence vote is expected by Friday. If